The following podcast reflects the views and opinions of the hosts and guests only. They do not reflect the views or opinions of any agency or specific members of an association. At times, colorful language may be used and may be unsuitable for people under the age of 18. Discretion is advised.
111, 110.
Happy Veterans Day, everybody. Welcome to the PPA podcast. It's our first ever podcast. We're joining the new millennium and getting out there trying to get some topics reflecting on law enforcement. I am Steve Gramis. I'm the president of the Las Vegas Police Protective Association. With me is...
I'm Dan Coyne. I'm a director on the e-board for the PPA. I'm the new guy up here, so I kind of got the great opportunity to be part of the podcast too.
He's the new guy, but he stepped in really well already. He's had several pranks. John Abel is his usual target, which is good. It provides laughter for the office. So a little background on me. I've been in law enforcement for about 22 years. I've worked undercover. I've been a training officer. I come to the police union, which is what the PPA is. I took over as president in 2016 and was reelected again this past October. And so that's a little bit about myself. Dan, go ahead and give them a little bit on you.
Well, I've been on the department 13 years now. My first 8 was in patrol. After about 8 years in patrol, I saw the vast amount of overtime available at the jail. I was working overtime at the hospital, and one of the COs showed me a car that he just bought. It was a $110,000 Corvette, and I'm like, dude, how do you afford that? He's like, you can afford that, man. You work for Metro, too. I was like, dude, I'm struggling with my Hyundai Sonata payment right now. So he's like, dude, I made $200 last year. I said, you show me a pay stub for $200. I'm signed up now. He showed it to me, so I went on protectthecity.com and tested again. And did 5 years almost in the jail, and now I'm on the union.
That sounds straight out of Wolf of Wall Street, right? Jonah Hill walked up to Leo.
Kind of was.
Said, hey, you show me a pay stub for $75,000 this month. I'll quit my job and work for you now. Dan, you were...
I was Jonah Hill in that.
What was
I
your...
don't see the resemblance.
What was your rank for pay at the jail?
I was... last year, I was number 4 on the department, but I worked the most hours. I just wasn't topped out in pay.
And just so any of our tax-paying citizens don't freak out, it was all overtime. It's posts that needed to be filled. It wasn't made-up stuff. So
it was selfless, really.
Very, yeah. Well, listen, you give up a lot of time with your family and kids and wife and, hunting and killing pigeons, whatever the shit you do. So what is the PPA? The PPA is the largest police union in the state of Nevada. We have over 3,500 commissioned officers between LVPPA with our police and corrections, as well as the city marshals and the city court marshals. We are their legal defense. We are their contract negotiators. We are their general go-to all-around benevolent group as well. So we want to open with, we don't have sponsors. This is our first show, but we're hoping to get some.
We kind of have a sponsor.
They don't know it yet.
Not official.
They're going to find out when they're flooded with purchase orders. I mean, there's this thing's going to go through the roof, and when it does, just send us a free bag. So, Black Rifle Coffee Company is a group that their mantra is veteran and first responder support. Some of the things are a veteran-owned and operated business. Black Rifle Coffee Company gives back through many veteran and first responder causes. They give preference to veteran-owned businesses as vendors and as suppliers, committed to hiring 10,000 veterans as they grow, and they strive to ensure our nation's defenders have the energy they need by regularly sending our coffee to service members deployed overseas. We came across this coffee how?
Well, what's really cool about this company, you can put whatever you want on the website, but it's their actions that really sold us on it. I was a proud recipient of a care package from Black Rifle Coffee during the mass public, unrest and anti-police rhetoric going on, and most companies were backing these organizations and backing that kind of movement. And Black Rifle Coffee was out there sending care packages to cops in the field. I got a package through some friends of mine whose daughter worked for the company nominated me, and my brother, who's a sheriff in Cleveland, Ohio, he also got a package. So all of us at the office appreciate it, and we drink it every day. and we wanted them to, have a shout on this as our kind of first unofficial sponsor.
And this goes out to any first responder supportive businesses. If you want us to talk about you, feature you, let us know. We'd love to show support for those that support us every day, either through their business or through the donations and things that they do. So, with regards to what the podcast is going to be about, we're going to talk about some cop stuff. We're going to talk about some fun shit. We listen to some podcasts from our brothers and sisters in law enforcement. Guys, some of you step it up because your shit's really, really fucking slow. Got to be a little bit lighthearted. Got to have a little bit of fun with this stuff. So you're going to get a little of that. We're going to talk about some funny shit. We're going to talk about some serious shit. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that really means something to everybody. So our first guest is going to end up being City Councilwoman Michele Fiore. Super supportive of law enforcement. Super supportive of us during the riots that we had here. She was a part of leading a group trying to put on some parades and first responder support events, even though some got shut down. But, how important, Dan, is it that our people in politics and in our state, citizens and everybody are supporting us?
I mean, we need their support. When the public's coming after us, it's put on by the media. They're showing a false agenda. And then when the people that, they look up to, which is our politicians, fall in line just because it's popular, it doesn't do any good. Crime's going to skyrocket. We have to show our cops that the politicians have their back so they can go out and do their job and know that, hey, we're appreciated and they're going to have our back.
Yeah, we don't feel it so much because we're not out there working the decks at the jail. We're not out there working the streets, but we get all our members calling us saying, hey, man, is this rhetoric real? Like, does the majority of the population dislike us? Do they want to defund us like some of the idiotic city council folks in different states that have made those claims of defunding cops? And, we are happy to tell them continually, no, that's not the case. You got a vocal minority running their mouth. But at the end of the day, the real support is out there. And, we keep pushing that message for our cops that people support us, keep doing the job, stay on the job, stay safe, and go out there and protect yourselves in the city. So I think we'll get into our interview. Michelle's here. She's ready. All right, yeah, we'll get into our interview with Councilwoman Fiore, and then we'll be right back. All right, everybody. Now with us, City Councilwoman Michele Fiore, coming in here to talk about some of the election issues and some of the things going on with the city. Thank you for joining us, Michele.
Absolutely, Steve. Thanks for having me. It's really exciting what you're doing here.
You know what? For the first time, usually my assistant gets a lot of things wrong. Adela, this one she may have gotten right. This is probably going to turn out to be bigger than Joe Rogan and everybody else.
I don't know. First of all, I agree that it's going to be bigger, but I disagree that she gets anything wrong. Adele gets everything right. Let's just be clear for the record.
That's a good point. She often makes me remember that most of the things she does works out very well, and my ideas don't go so well. So, we wanted to find out, the PPA was heavily involved in this election cycle, more so probably than we've ever been. PPA created their own PAC account to support candidates, was out conducting PAC fundraisers in that. And you as the vice chair for the Republican Party?
So the Republican National Committee woman, for the state of Nevada.
There you go. You are the big dog for the Republican Party, which is shockingly unions getting behind the Republican candidates in the past didn't happen. This election cycle, we were heavily dominated by the support we gave to Republicans.
So one of the things that I'm going to make sure is crystal clear with Republicans and our unions is, number one, a lot of the unions out there, especially our police unions, our firefighter unions, when you look at our union members and the membership, these are Second Amendmenters. These are family people. These are people that really safeguard their religions, whether it's Christianity or Judaism or whatever religious beliefs you have. These are the same values Republicans have. So going forth, I believe the combination and the new marriage between the unions and the Republican Party is 100-fold. As I've told you in private meetings, and I'll say this publicly and wherever, all Republicans that are running for office, if they do not support our police unions and our police, they will not get my endorsement. Republicans and police are now united as one.
And that's what we've been waiting for, right? Our last election cycle, we supported a lot of Democratic folks, that nice people, but in our opinion, in the special session, they turned their back on law enforcement. And so it caused us to have more conversation with the Republican Party. and say, hey, this is where we were, this is where we'd like to get to. And some of those 3 pillars that you and I have talked about were our pension system, our right to bargain, and our police officers' Bill of Rights. If we can leave those things alone, which are all 3 great in our state, you've got a line of officers ready to support you guys.
Right. And here's the thing. I think I've been that Republican throughout my political career that has supported you from the beginning. And I think going forth, leading as an exemplar, so will our most conservative Republicans. Number one, we support our police. Blue lives matter. I don't care who I offend. I'm okay with that. I get offended when we are silenced, and there are organizations out there that are quite terrifying, kind of like domestic terrorist organizations that are looting and burning and hurting our police officers, Shay being an example. So I believe you have 100% Republican support. And within the Republican Party, I know the Nevada GOP, the chairman, Michael McDonald, supports it. He was a former Metro police officer. So I think we're pretty covered in that. And in this election cycle, as we go forth, we have to make sure that we do from here on out, make sure everything is held accountable. I don't care if we have to come into a whole new revote in the county of Clark. There has been a lot of illegal things that have happened, and I'll say that publicly because we have a lot of attorneys on it, and people door knocking and shocked. So we can get into that too.
And yeah, so we just, well, I guess we can't say we wrapped up the election because there's a lot of fighting still going on with issues with this election. So talk us through where we're going now. The PPA supported April Becker the night of the election. The next morning, she's winning. Next day, she's closed the gap, Nicole Cannizzaro. Next day, she's winning now. Carrie Buck was winning, and then later, she was down. A lot of our candidates that were up on Election Day crazily lost their races or in losing positions, and it's tough for people to kind of swallow that and say, well, this had to be a fair process. And so where do we go from here?
So we go in many places. Number one, we have quite a large team here that are on the ground door knocking on suspicious ballots that were mail-in ballots that we believe with undeliverable addresses that voted that don't live there. And this is what we're finding. And we've got affidavits, whistleblowers. We have folks signing. Like, let's say you did a mail-in ballot and from an address, 6205 Red Pine. And we knock on the door and we say, hello, is Mr. Steve Grammas here? Nope, there's no Steve Grammas here. Well, does Mr. Steve Grammas live here? Nope. Well, how long have you lived here? And then the response is 5-6 years. And you don't know Mr. Steve Grammas? Nope. But he voted from this house address right here through a mail-in ballot. Well, he's never been here. This is our home. We own it, and we don't know Steve. Are you willing to sign an affidavit and have me record you saying that there's no Steve Grammas here? Yes, we are. We have so many of them. These are the things that we will be bringing to court in front of judges. And one of the things I'm going to say about judges is they're electable too. So if we find, as we go through the fair and court process, if we find in the state of Nevada, Clark County, I don't care what judge it is, if that judge is not obeying the Constitution, and there's always an election.
And it's funny you bring up judges because a very supportive, very good judge, Judge Kephart, was in the same boat. Election night, he was up, and then slowly but surely, this tenured, good judge who sits on the bench and has served this community well continued to start losing to a candidate that, I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen one ad for her. I've seen one billboard along Durango at around Gowan. That's it. Didn't really know who she was, and she's winning.
Yeah, so there's definitely, this is why it is important, besides us talking about it, this is why it is so very important that we make sure the people of the state of Nevada and every county know that we will hold elections accountable. We are not going to go, oh, okay, and accept that. Judge Kephart and I have spoken. We are on the ground in Clark County, and not some, there's a lot of votes that happened in his race that are inaccurate, and we have a lot of affidavits coming out. So again, we're not going to just accept the illegal counts that we're seeing or what's happening. I mean, in my personal house, I got a ballot for someone that doesn't live there. And now we're checking to see if that person voted, because I took that ballot and brought it to the GOP and said, why is this coming to my house?
Now, you've served in the state legislature before.
I did.
What are your thoughts on how the special session was used to kind of promulgate this mail-in ballot position when we're looking at COVID, we're looking at budgets, and then all of a sudden we morph in some other areas? What are your thoughts on that? You think that was planned?
Yes, I do think it was planned. And I also think that, in this pandemic, I'm changing the word to pandering. So 2020, it's the pandering pandemic. We saw across the nation organizations burning cities down. And then we saw elected officials like the ones sitting right now in Nevada pandering to them. And the only way that folks, because let me tell you something, there are a lot of, I call JFK Democrats. My mom, being a JFK Democrat, voted for Trump, is sick to her stomach that our sitting governor is pandering. She had a lot of high hopes for him. And so, again, we need to hold folks accountable. And right now, the speaker, who should be losing her seat, and we're not going to stop until we get accountability on those votes, should not be in there. How dare, in special session, they literally go against the people that keep Nevada, our seniors, and all of us safe.
And that's funny. So, when I was up there for every week of the special session, there were people up there that didn't want me to be there, didn't want to see me, they didn't want to have involvement with me as the police union, and that's okay. There were plenty of people that were willing to sit down and talk with us. But when we went up to that session, and when we came out of it, having our police officers' Bill of Rights attacked, the start to police reform, and it's the start. It's going to come worse in this coming session, we believe, that they're going to start tying police officers' hands. What amazed me was there was another group, and I won't say their name, but they claim to be law enforcement, going out and supporting people like Nicole Cannizzaro, who just ripped your police officers' Bill of Rights apart up at the session that we worked so hard for in the last session. That supported a national congresswoman who was signing on to bills about defunding police and supporting police reforms across the country for things that they really don't have the real insight to. And when you were up there, would you take the position to just rush things through, or was the session created so that you could take your time and put the amount of work into it that it's due to change law or bring about new law?
I would. And here's another thing. Being up there for 2 terms, there's been plenty of times where they had given us a bill, whether it was 60 pages, 150 pages, right before we hit the floor. And I would tell my team, my caucus, I'm like, we're not voting on this. If you push this through, it's a no vote. Even a lot of what I found was a lot of times caucuses will suggest to their caucus members how to vote. So I'm sorry, I didn't get that memo. So I take up my how to vote through my constituents. So there's been a lot of times where they said it was 41 to Fiore up in session because I voted no. I'm like, nope, not doing that, Bill. Sorry, unless we go over it and read it, I'm not voting for something that I'm not reading.
And when we talk about changing state law, state policy, that's the proper way to do it.
That is.
You shouldn't just say, well, my party leader said I need to vote this way, and I just go ahead and do it.
I know.
Which seems to happen more and more.
Steve, my first time I got elected as an assemblywoman was 2013. We were in the caucus, and our caucus leader says to me, listen, you're new. You need to sit down and pay attention and just learn and, and go with the flow. I said, look, I'm not a go with the flow kind of girl. So I disagree with you, and I'm not here just to sit down and watch you tell me how to vote. I'm going to vote the way our constituency wants us to. But I'll tell you, it was interesting, my first session up there.
So you've got a freshman assemblywoman from New York being told you need to vote a certain way.
You need to sit down and pay attention and just learn.
And were they shocked when you kind of said, yeah, don't
That
let the
ain't gonna
blonde
work.
hair fool you?
Yeah, I said, this is bleach, guys. And we have a Brooklyn terminology, and there's a 4-letter word. It begins with F that they got used to quite often, and that's how it went.
So, we talked a lot about the election. We appreciate all the work you're putting into everything to make sure that the elections are fair. And let's be very clear. We're talking about a fair election.
Yes.
If Donald Trump, if April Becker, if Carrie Buck lost fairly,
Yep.
we're not sitting here banging the drum that,
Right.
well, something else happened. Sometimes people lose.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes.
But it's very tough to swallow that pill when it's 5 days later
Yes.
you lose.
Yes.
So appreciate that. Let's move on to the city. That's where you're at.
Yeah.
What's going on with the city? What's new with the city? What can we expect from the city of Las Vegas? And
So the city, I have to tell you, the majority of us are rebellious, including Madam Mayor Carolyn Goodman. And, as everyone wanted to shut down, her and I were like, nope, stay open. We're going to have city council. We've never missed a city council meeting. There were a few council members that, wanted to stay home and they called in. But even calling in on a city council meeting, like they're kind of, garbled and you really can't hear them. So we are going forward. The city of Las Vegas never shut down as other entities have. And I'm so proud of Circa. So we finally, downtown in the city of Las Vegas, have a 5-star, beautiful, brand new hotel. The garage is called Garage Mahal. I mean,
and if you haven't seen it, I live far northwest. I can see the lights from the north side of that building from
Yeah.
out there. It is not your parents' downtown. It's not your parents' Fremont Street anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That place is going to change things, I think.
Yes.
You can't see that beautiful building and go, well, that's okay. I'm still going to go to this hotel.
No.
That's the place.
That is the place. Downtown Las Vegas is the place to go. We are working and planning a really great New Year's Eve. I believe our governor has shut the fireworks system down on the Strip.
Well, he's threatened to shut everything down. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
we're shut down 2.0. Listen, full disclosure, I tell everybody, PPA supported him when he ran for governor. I had a follow-up interview a couple weeks ago, and they said, what are your thoughts now? I said, there ain't a chance in hell that
No.
I'm supporting him.
No,
but
you and me both.
It's all
You and me both.
It's all through. He's trying to lead through fear, like
Yeah.
like your dad, except he doesn't realize that we're grown-ups now.
Yes.
And I don't discredit anybody for trying to help people stay healthy, but threatening people and saying, if you don't do this, you're going to force my hand. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's right. And I have to tell you, I am, first of all, when he first got elected, I took a step back and I said, okay, maybe he's going to be moderate and, maybe this is going to be okay. And as soon as hard times started coming, his true colors showed. So I surround myself with intelligent folks, and he surrounds himself with anti-citizen, anti-Republican. So if you're not a liberal left-wing organization, he's not taking your advice.
Well, and we heard that in the special session. I had some folks reach out to me and say, we were literally told if we support any Republican candidates that we would never have the governor's ear again to even just bring things to him.
Well, then we just need a new governor.
You know what? I couldn't agree more. We've got 2 years. I really hope that the people here in the state of Nevada don't forget what we're going through right now. This is, there was a rumor that the governor was going to be changing his last name to Newsom, but he's going to continue in the direction and the path and threats of shutting us down and affect our economy. Mm-hmm. And how does that affect our cops? Pay raises, cost of living,
everything.
Potential having to give things back, which me as a union president, I will never be a part of as long as I'm here. I'd never concede to that. Mm-hmm. But we look and we see state employees now, we're asked that they have to cut 12%, I believe, over the next 2 years from the state folks. So what he's doing has an ancillary effect on our law enforcement community, our fire community, our first responders, everybody. And if he keeps going in this direction, and if in 2 years we reelect him, the next time something hard comes up, he's going to make the same decisions that Newsom and those other folks are making.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. As long as we straighten out our election department and we have fair elections, there's no way he gets reelected. And I'm going to tell you some of his biggest donors, Democrat donors, I'm talking big donors, okay? have called me and said, Michelle, who are you running for governor? Because he has destroyed us. He's destroyed our business. He's destroyed Las Vegas. And we're looking to put money behind someone else. So I said, give me a little bit of time, because we have to create an alliance on who we support, and we support him as one. And as long as we can make sure that our election department is not counting illegal ballots or ripping up ballots for another person, Steve Sisolak will be a one-termer.
And we here at the PPA are all about some product branding. We see you're wearing one of our SWAT team Zebra hoodies. Are the best SWAT team in the country. A lot of great folks work over there. Can't go without acknowledging the SWAT team sweater. But you're right. As long as things are fair, and as long as the public feels like they're fair and that their true voice is heard, I don't see him winning. I really wish he was up for election this year. I think he'd be done this year. It's fresh in everyone's mind how much families have suffered, how much businesses have suffered. The folks trying to get through with Dieter couldn't get their payment. I mean, there's so much ancillary stuff with what he has been the head of that and they would have voted him out, and it's unfortunate, but I hope the Republican Party brings a strong candidate forward in 2 years. Know that as long as King Sisolak sits up in Carson City or his fine home in Spanish Trails, that the PPA and I hope the rest of my alliance will side with me when we say we will get behind the Republican Party's candidate for governor in 2022 and do everything we can to make sure that we can get this state back running in a proper direction with a real leader.
Yes, but the number one thing is what we have to do, and we absolutely can take over the governorship, is making sure that the election process is fair. Because no matter what we do, whoever we choose, if the election process isn't fair, AB 4 was crystal clear that all mail-in ballots have to have a verified signature, and that's what we believe is not taking place at the moment. So as long as we have a fair election process, we will he will be a one governor term, and that's what we're looking for. And let me tell you, as a Republican, when Democrats beat my candidates fair and square, like when Nicole first won her Senate election, I called, congratulated her, send her a card, and say, look, you're going to be good. If you need anything, here's my number. Call me. It doesn't matter. When you win an election fair and square, I don't care what party you're with, I will congratulate you and be fair. But right now, in the county of Clark, I can tell you that this mail-in ballot sneaky process of people voting without the signature verification is not a legal election.
It's really disheartening that we're even talking about that.
I'm telling you.
I mean, with all the advances in technology and where we've come and how far our nation has come and state has come, to say, there's people that are dead that have voted. I know there was one lady who went to vote, and they said, "Oh, you've already voted." She said, "No, I haven't. I'm here ready to vote." "No, we already got your ballot, and we got your roommate's ballot." How in the hell does that happen? And how does that person working at the polling station look at them and go, something's got to be wrong here?
We have whistleblowers that have signed affidavits that said, there has been buckets of unopened mail ballots come in. Some of the employees opened them, filled them out, and then made a human block. And so we have and all this is coming out. And let me tell you, when it comes in front of our judicial system, and if the judge is unfair and he's an elected judge, trust me, he's going to have a darn hard time getting reelected.
Well, and same thing with the judges, and you said it. Just be fair. Do it right.
Just be fair.
Doesn't matter what you look at. Amy Coney Barrett, they tried to pigeonhole her in certain things, and she said all the things she's supposed to. Hey, listen, I'm not going to give an opinion on this stuff. That's not the thing to do. Sorry, it's potential litigation. But they try and trap you into those, yes or no questions, through all the hearings. Just give me a yes or no. And that's just trapping folks to give you a bullshit response. And it's cool that we can curse on here. I hope there's no kids, but we have full range to curse, which is so fun. Listen, I think we've had quite a bit of time with you, Michelle.
Yes.
I really you're a super busy woman. It's Veterans Day. Do you have anything to say to our veterans? We know a lot of our officers are veterans.
So first of all, the father of my children's a veteran, and one of them was born in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So
was Colonel Jessup there? And was there a code red ordered at all
My
on
goodness,
Guantanamo Bay?
My goodness. There's a lot of codes ordered on Guantanamo Bay. We call it Gitmo for short. And it's an amazing base. But to all of our men and women, honoring all that have served and that are still serving, I think, number one, people, Steve, that have never served or don't understand our service, freedom is not free. And these veterans sign up to protect our freedoms in our country with an open checkbook of their life, kind of like you police officers.
Yeah, it's how President Trump treated our military very, very well.
He loves them.
I fear for the potential future for them because, as you said, on the state level and the national, here it is the police officers that are the first responder when it comes globally, nationally for potential wars and trying to keep people in check. It's our military folks that are out there risking their lives, and many don't come home. They don't get to process out. They don't get to come see their loved ones and their kids and their wives and their husbands. And so this is a day of reflecting on those, to me, that have gotten out, that have made it through and paid that debt to the country to say, I protected you, I stood watch while you all slept. And for anyone to badmouth them, kiss my ass.
Shame on them.
Yeah, shame is the easiest word you can use. But we have a lot of folks that are appreciative of you, Michele. We thank you for being on our first ever podcast. We hope this continues. We hope to bring you back and update us a little more. Maybe after the new year, we talk about what's to expect. Yep. Maybe we have a potential governor candidate. Who knows?
Yep.
But we do appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Adele. I think this is going to be fabulous.
All right. That was a great interview with Councilwoman Fiore. Brought up a lot of good points and issues from our election cycle. A lot of good things coming for the city of Las Vegas when we talk about the circa and things like that. So happy to see where our city is going, especially after people have been hell-bent on trying to damage our economy over coronavirus and how to handle your business. So let's get on to some topics for cops, right? Here locally, and this is a national issue on how agencies are handling COVID and workers' comp and time off, and what do you do when an officer gets COVID, or what do you do when you just don't want them in the workplace? Dan's going to talk about that. He's been heading up a lot of these complaints that we've had and see how we navigate through this and where we think our department, as far as Las Vegas goes, and what are we looking toward, Dan?
Well, I mean, we got these cops who are going out, and the COVID pandemic happened, and there's a lot of exposures. And most of these exposures result in, the cop not getting sick. However, even though these guys are perfectly healthy and not sick, our department's forcing them to stay at home. And we, in the beginning, the department, quoted CDC mandates, and the CDC's mandating that and mandating this. And we looked some things up, and they're really not mandating any of that. In fact, most departments around the nation are going around, they're following, it's a critical infrastructure law enforcement guideline from the CDC to the departments. And that recommendation is, hey, if you're a cop and if you had exposure and you're not sick and you're healthy, so not symptomatic, we recommend that you go to work and you just wear a mask and you social distance when possible. Our department's already having the officers wear a mask 24/7 while they're at work. So we just want our guys who are healthy and not sick to be able to come to work. We want this for a few reasons. Right now, over 2,000 officers is what the quote was from the department has been put on quarantine, and this is for 2 weeks. If you've been listening or reading the news lately, you see that violent crime on the Strip is skyrocketing, and I think there's a direct correlation of having 2,000 cops off for 2 weeks at a time. There's not enough cops on the streets right now. There's not enough backup for these guys. The department, in their right mind, in their mind, they think they're doing the right thing. But what's more dangerous, a cop not having a back, or a possible exposure getting through? I just don't see the numbers are there. I don't think we're getting enough positive tests to say, hey, all these guys who've been exposed are going to get it. I think we should follow the CDC critical infrastructure mandate or guidelines and let them come to work.
That's the crux of the whole issue, right? Is we are special. Police are special. You need to have police. You can't quarantine everybody because of a potential exposure. And that's why I believe the CDC created those guidelines to say, hey, listen, You got to get your ass to work. Forever in our career, we've been told, hey, you got the sniffles, you got the this. Unless you're dying, we need you here, you know. And the citizens do need the cops. They need them there. They need the folks at the jail. They need the folks out in the streets to say, well, you were around someone that was COVID positive, and we just don't want you to come in for 14 days. And, oh, yeah, use your own time.
And the crazy thing, Steve, is they're saying, okay, stay at home, use your own time, and then don't go anywhere. They're saying, don't go out, don't go around your family, but we don't want to pay you. I mean, what kind of crack of shit is that?
Yeah, it's, you know, we've had officers say that they were actually told you will be disciplined if you violate the 2-week quarantine. You have to have food delivered to your home. That sounds like an order under threat of discipline, and to me, that sounds like two letters that are near and dear to your heart.
It's crazy when I hear that. We've all seen the videos from the beginning of the pandemic where you're in India and the police officers are riding around their mopeds beating the shit out of people with sticks.
Yeah.
That's the department in this instance. Beating the shit out of you with sticks if you leave the house. I mean, it's crazy. It's like a communist country that we're living in right now.
Well, I think those two letters that are important there when they tell you can't this, you could be disciplined, are O and a T. And if they want to control you for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you got to pay for it.
Yep,
you know, I mean, it would make more sense to me to say, hey, for 10 hours during your shift, you got to stay home. Outside of that, I can't do anything to you. But they don't. And folks have called me and said, Steve, I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble because I go to the store. And they told me, no, you have to have food delivered. So it is a crazy position. But, you know, how are we navigating through it? What are we doing?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of grievances filed right now, and we have in contract a grievance process to follow, and I think the department's even skewing that process. You know, as a process, we can bring it to their captain, and their captain, they're supposed to be able to look at it and fairly make a decision of, hey, yeah, this is fair, or it's unfair, and we're gonna grant your grievance, or we're gonna deny it. But we're going in, and these captains are telling us health and safety is telling them not to grant any grievances because it's going to hurt them when it comes down to an arbitrator. And, I mean, if that's not a breach of contract, I don't know what is. And, you know, all we want them to do is, you know, play by the rules and let healthy cops come to work and catch bad guys. That's it.
So we're in the process of negotiating a lot of those potential cases. Like, how do we handle these people that are exposed outside of work? I will give the department credit. I don't know if it's the smart move, but I will give them credit. Somebody came in contact with someone with COVID at work. They've put them off on their own dime. The big issue for us is when they tell them to stay home because their son had COVID, they're having no symptoms, they're okay to come into work, and they're saying, no, you stay home, but you have to burn that accumulated sick time that you earned.
Yeah, and I mean, the department's taken the stance of that's an at-home exposure. However, I disagree. You know, the CARES Act came along and said if it was medically possible that you've been exposed or, you know, got this from work, which is, I mean, huge leeway on that you should be covered. So how do we not know that the officers are going to work, risking their lives, and then bringing that, you know, COVID exposure home to their family, and they're getting it? I think that's more of the case there. And then, you know, at the same time, hey, I'm healthy. I want to come to work. I'm not symptomatic. You know, the CDC says I should be able to come to work. Let me come to work and do my job.
Now we'll go a step further. So that was the issue with people that are exposed potentially off duty. Now we've got the video that came out from one of our upper administrators that said, if you come to work with a sore throat or any symptom of COVID, which we're in the cold and flu season, allergy season, this thing is going to keep coming, that if you do, we're going to discipline you. And if you cause others to be quarantined, we're going to suspend you. And oh yeah, we don't have to negotiate this with the union. We just think we can do it. So the PPA sent off a letter saying, hey, you have to negotiate this stuff. These are mandatory subjects of bargaining. Discipline and discharge, mandatory subjects. If you want to take our officers bonus time because they used more than 3 days of sick, you have to negotiate that. You want to tell them that they can't have more than a certain amount of hours of sick in a year, otherwise they're malingering. When you're forced to stay home because your fear of being disciplined for a runny nose, that's got to be negotiated. There's a lot of ancillary things that we've got to talk about that, unfortunately, in this one, our department's missing the mark on it and sitting down and talking with the unions.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't come to the table with us at all on how to handle this. You know, they sent out these videos, which I sent back to India, where they're beating people with sticks. That's a prime example of that video.
A lot of stick beating in Dan's world of things.
It was a funny video, and so was that video the department put out. You know, threatening people if you don't call in and tell your supervisor you have a runny nose. I have allergies. I take allergy medicine every day. It's crazy to me that they're doing this, and it's kind of crazy to me that the members are they want to do the right thing, and they call in and they say, all right, I want to do it, I'm going to report it, and they say, okay, now stay home and use your own time. And these guys, a lot of the guys are new people who don't have a lot of time, and we've had people who are going to have a baby next year. They're the wife's pregnant. Hey, I need the time for this, and it's a real issue, and our members are at home stressing about it. And in the meantime, the department's not willing to sit down and bargain with us. All we want is to go out and say, hey, this is the mandate. This is how most of the departments are handling it. Let's be right in the middle instead of extreme left like we always end up.
So we're appealing to, this is going to go out to hopefully a lot of people across the country, a lot of cops across the country. We're going to send it to our folks in NAPO, National Association of Police Organizations, one of the finest national groups that we could be a part of, this podcast. And what we'd like some feedback on, and Dan and I were talking this morning, was how are other departments handling this? How is Northtown? How is Henderson? How is NYPD? How is the Florida PBA? What are you guys doing with this? I know a lot of departments were given 80 hours per officer under cares. But what if there's a second exposure? What if there's another this? What if there's another that? So for anybody that's listening or watching, we're going to be, in the interim, you could send an email to asolano, SOLANO, at LVPPA.com. In the very near future, we're hopeful that we will have podcast at lvppa.com for you to send questions, comments, and concerns about any of the topics. So if any of our brothers and sisters in the unions across the country have anything on how it's being dealt with in your place, maybe it's worse. Maybe you got a department that's going even worse than us.
I don't know, man. The stick beating here is pretty bad.
There's stick beating everywhere. That's the one thing I've learned about talking with folks across the country. There's stick beating everywhere. Them sticks are long, and they just hit the shit out of you. All right. What do we got next here? Adela, we have to give another shout-out to Adela, our producer, our person that put me up to this and said, hey, Steve, people may want to hear from you. I don't know why. My wife and kids don't even want to hear from me. But she thinks that other cops may want to hear from me, which would be funny. VGK letter.
Talking about stick beating, we got VGK right now.
That is a great segue. The stick handing and things like that. So we've had a lot of people were up in arms. A lot of people were extremely supportive when the PPA wrote the letter to VGK about. So I remember when we wrote the letter, came into work and was like, listen, this is not fair what they're doing.
No.
This isn't about protesting. And there were a lot of people said, hey, how dare you? They have a right to protest. Listen, I don't care about your protests. I haven't cared the whole time. What I care is that you're putting it on the heels of a case that you know nothing about. You don't know anything about the Jacob Blake shooting. You don't know any details, facts, or circumstances. You're just stepping out in front of this and saying, look, here's another one. And so for those that were misguided on what we did there, and I always say we, a lot of people know that I don't like the term I like the term we. We as an executive board, we as a PPA, we as brothers and sisters in law enforcement. It's not an I thing. There is no I in team. I had a coach that also said, well, there's no we either, but he's an asshole and he sucked as a coach. So there is a we in team if you flip the M and you add the E. But we said, hey, we've got to address this. A lot of times across the country, things have happened and there was no response from the unions or the police. And we are the voice of the police. When something happens, we've got to be the ones that step up. And we stepped up in that one big, and a lot of people weren't happy about what we did. Our own members weren't happy with what we did.
I think there was a handful of our members who weren't happy, but the vast majority, everybody who I was approached by was happy with it. One of the things about the Golden Knights and hockey in general, they weren't involved in this protest against the police, and it was kind of an outlet for cops to go out and say, you know what, hockey's the only one not doing it. We're going to go on our off time, and we're going to watch it because we're not going to be brought into the negative anti-police politics. And, especially the Golden Knights, having our back in the community over the last 3 years, kind of standing side by side with us, supporting us, and for that complete 180, turning their backs on us. We had to say something. It was our outlet. A lot of cops supported it. I supported them, and I don't know if I do anymore. I know The Golden Knights went out to some area commands and stations and gave out some sticks, signed some stuff, but said, hey, don't put any of this on social media because it's a bad image for them. And that's bullshit. You either have our backs or not. Draw that line in the sand.
And I will when the email went out, when the letter went out, we were contacted by Bill Foley almost instantly. Hey, I'd really like to talk to you. Bill Foley and I had a few conversations. I appreciated the reach out, but you're right, Dan. There hasn't been enough done. He told me, hey, when we get back from the Stanley Cup, when we're back, I'd love to sit down with you, bring you in, meet with you guys, talk with you about the issues. I have had assurances from a lot of people in the community that know the players that there were a lot of players that were not on board with what Ryan Reeves did. And from what I was told, I could be wrong, it was a Ryan Reeves issue brought to him by somebody outside of Nevada, and other people were just made to go along. And, whether they are right or wrong for just going along, they didn't support it. And so, it'd be nice to hear from those folks that say, hey, listen, Ryan can have his beliefs, but we're not with that. I'm not going to stand in here. If Dan said I'm going to do a video that badmouths the PPA, I'm not going to stand in your video, Dan. I'm sorry, buddy. Just that doesn't happen. So have the stones to say, hey, I'm not standing with you, Ryan. I don't care that we're a hockey team and we're players and we're this, but I also got some other shit going on in my real life that I do support the police and I support what they're doing. And so, time will tell how we continue through here, but I can tell you it's been since September that I've had any real dialogue with anyone with the Knights. And we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, they just kind of left it out there and didn't show any action on it. It was a Ryan Reeves thing, and I'd like to see Ryan Reeves on the show. We can invite him on this podcast. If he comes out and talk with us, we'll give him something. Maybe Steve will step into the ring downstairs with him and he.
Dan set me up.
He's an MMA fighter.
Not even close. Any of the guys from Extreme Couture that I did not say I'm an MMA fighter. You all know I stink at jiu-jitsu. My hands are slow, my feet are slower, and my body's even fat and slow. So, no, Ryan Reeves, I don't think I'd want to challenge you down in my gym downstairs. If you wanted to come see it, I could show you it. But you probably beat the snot out of me as an old man that I am, compared to you probably. But it would be nice to have him on the show, right? Hey, come in here and let's have the dialogue. That's what everyone complains about. Where's the dialogue with police? Let's have it.
Let's sit down and talk. And he comes from a law enforcement family. So maybe he's open to this.
Perfect platform to say, hey, this is why I did it. Let me tell you why we took offense to it. And then maybe at the end you go, okay, yeah, I see your point. Because I've said this all along, even with the protests, there were plenty of protesters that were peaceful, that felt genuinely that African Americans or somebody were being targeted. I feel bad for them for feeling that way, doing law enforcement for 22 years. I have never stopped someone because of the color of their skin. I can't say there's others that aren't that way. Listen, we know we got some shit cops. We've fired shit cops for doing bad things. Assholes fondling women on car stops, stealing. It's there. It's not a large contingency at all.
I mean, it's 0.001%.
Yeah.
And, the vast majority of our officers go out and, it doesn't matter what color you are. They're gonna come to your call and they're gonna take a bullet for you if they have to.
All they see is bad guys and good people, right? And if
Absolutely.
we're not there, if the line, people talk about the thin blue line, right? Oh, it could be racist, it could be this. Listen, the thin blue line is the line of officers in blue, because it used to be the boys in blue, that separate the good people from the bad.
Correct.
And if that line is not there, it can be overrun on the good side. And we're not going to let that happen no matter how many vocal minorities say, hey, the cops need to go up your ass, because the same person saying the cops need to go will call us in a week when someone breaks into their house.
Absolutely. And for the citizens out there, and even for the people who are against us, they need to know we're going to stay. We're not running away. We're here to do our job.
That leads us into kind of community and our next topic. So the PPA has got involved with a Thanksgiving dinner donation. We know through COVID, Dan, we've dealt with it with families that people have lost jobs. As we talked about in the segment with Councilwoman Fiore, Dieter isn't coming through with people with their money. There are folks with children that want to still be able to put on Thanksgiving for the kids, put dinner on the table, but are having a genuine tough time. So we as a board met, we talked about it, and we we've got two great partners. And I'll talk about them both. The first one is Albertsons. Adela went to Albertsons and said, listen, we want to provide 100 full turkey dinners to people that are nominated by our officers. And I want to talk about that nomination process in the end. But if you can put together a turkey, some canned goods, some rolls, some potatoes, a pumpkin pie, we'd love it. We weren't sure how they were going to receive it. They said, listen, we're all over this. This is going to be great. The next thing we needed was, you know what? There's a lot of ancillary stuff, flour, butter, things like that, milk. Maybe there's a little more we can do. So reached out to our partners at Station Casinos and said, hey, would you want to partner and give a $50 gift card as well to each 100-person donation? Without batting an eye, they said, absolutely. How do we get involved? What do you need from us? So we've got two great partners between Station Casinos, one of our local favorites. I love the Red Rock Hotel. It's one of my favorite places to go. I'm not biased because I know the people there, and I think they're great folks, and they're some of the most
It's a beautiful
people.
hotel. Great location.
But Albertsons as well. So for our cops, if you have a family while you're out there working, and when we're talking about family, that's what we're looking at, children that may not have that Thanksgiving dinner, let us know. Send an email to asolano@lvppa.com. Say, hey, here's the name, here's the phone number, here's the address. They need the help. We will reach out to them. Our cutoff date is the 18th for submittals. The 20th is the big turkey delivery date up here at the office. We're going to have everything here. The families can come up here. We'll make contact. It's going to be a great give back from the police union to support our community because we've got to do more, Dan. We talk about it a lot. How do we do more? You're the head of the donation committee, right?
Yeah.
We have donations that come through for the cerebral palsy, all kinds of different things that aren't necessarily law enforcement related, but we've got to do something in the community, right?
No, I mean, that's where it comes down. We're partners with the community. We want to be out there. We want to be helping. And the Thanksgiving dinner is, and Steve said it. A lot of people in Vegas are hurting because, unfortunately, the governor shut the state down. We have 30-some% unemployment, a lot of people out of work, and we just want to make sure that the families have a Thanksgiving, that the kids aren't suffering. And, Station Casinos, Albertsons stepped up. They're going to help us out with it. And it's just not for, the cops out there who are recommending these families. If you know somebody at church, if you know somebody, in your family that's hurting and they can't afford this, you can donate them or, sponsor them as well. Put their names out.
Great point on that, man. It's and when you wake up in the morning and it's Thanksgiving and the no person present Macy's Day Parade is going, because their governor also won't allow people to be out there and celebrate something that's been celebrated for the start of time. Wake up with a great cup of coffee. And who can you go to?
You go to Black Rifle Coffee.
Holy shit. Product plugging at its best for our first episode. This big zoom in right there. Look at that. Black Rifle Coffee
Black
Company.
Rifle Coffee is not for everybody, Steve. It's for people who love America.
But you know what? If you don't like Black Rifle Coffee, you don't like America. I'm sorry, Folgers, and I don't even know who else is out there, but get you a nice bag of Black Rifle Coffee. It'll be amazing. So let's talk about some movies, Dan. First podcast. You're not much of a movie connoisseur, I don't believe.
I think I just got told yesterday that I was going to be part of this podcast, and there's a lot of jokes that go around up here. So I thought you guys were bullshitting me. I'm like, okay, we're going to be part of the podcast until the email came out, and I'm like, oh, shit. And then I saw some of the subjects, and it was top 5 cop movies. And I'm from the millennial generation, unfortunately. So some of these old cop movies I haven't seen, and it was Lethal Weapon.
No. What'd you call it?
Lethal Action. I thought it was Lethal Action.
For you people older than 30, this guy said, yeah, I watched Lethal Action 1 and 2. That's what we're dealing with here with this new generation.
I wasted 4 hours last night watching Lethal Weapon. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to rank it above, the other guys or RIPD. You could put it wherever you want on your list, but I think it's garbage.
All right, give me your top 5 then. Go. If you're going to leave Lethal Action off.
I'm saying number 1, end of watch.
Should you go from, all right, well, you screwed that up already. We should have gone from 5 to 1.
Cut back.
All right, yeah, we're gonna cut that out. We got a great editing crew, and we're gonna go from 5 to 1. Hit it.
5-1. I think the Bad Boys series, and anything that has more than one movie in it, I'm gonna place it all together. Bad Boys. I mean, it's great.
So 1, 2, and 3.
This last one is good.
Hold on, I want to be clear. So you're saying the Bad Boys series is 5. It's not 5, 4, 3.
No, it's 5.
Okay, all right. So your series is 5.
Yes.
All right, 4.
4 is going to be The Other Guys.
Great movie.
A little comedy in it. Great partner going back and forth, and anybody who compares. What was it? A 500-pound tuna and all of his tuna friends getting a taste for lion, and it's in there.
Listen, Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg, if you want to come on the show and talk about The Other Guys, we'd really love to see another guys too. I agree. I have tried to find Faceback app that was created on the movie so we could catch more criminals. It's not out there, nor is a linseed oil wood gun. I know a lot of cops that probably should carry that because they can't shoot for shit. But, all right, Other Guys, good pick. 3.
Training Day. Definitely number 3, Training Day.
It's just so fucking predictable to throw that in your top 5.
I don't
Training
think
Day
so.
is just too predictable. Yeah, no, it's I'm looking at your list.
I think
here.
it's more realistic than Lethal Weapon.
I worked in that world. We didn't do any of that shit.
You guys did it wrong.
No, we didn't. Training Day.
Number 2, Colors.
Got it. Good call.
And
Good
then
call.
number 1, End to Watch, because I think out of all the cop movies I see, it's like, shit, it's so unrealistic. And I'm not saying it's realistic that the amount of action they get in, no, but most of the situations they were in are legit situations that our cops can find themselves in.
All right, well, that's fair enough.
How about yours? What's your list?
You fell for it. I don't watch cop movies off duty. I watch other shit. So cop movie, you oldest trick in the book. You just hook, line, and sinker. You went into cop movies, and no, I'll give you some. So let's go.
Number 5.
Let's go Police Academy series. Good series. Got a little stupid at the end when Bobcat Goldthwait becomes a cop from being a gangster, but Steve Guttenberg, Emmy nominated, probably not, but should have been Emmy nominated for his role.
I'm gonna have to put it out there. I've never seen the Police Academy series, so it's probably garbage.
Sounds about
Lethal Weapon.
Sounds about right. And we're gonna go Lethal Weapon right behind it. Number 4, the series Lethal Weapon. You evolve so well when you have a partner that is continually getting photos taken of him in his underwear while a man is shooting fire at them, and you keep posting it. It's a great – and shout out to Jiu-Jitsu. Mel Gibson attempts a triangle in Lethal Weapon 1. You very colorfully said it sucked because it didn't work and the guy got out.
Yeah, he took the top mount right away. He didn't put him in his guard. Again, unrealistic.
Let's go number 3. I like The Other Guys. I like The Other Guys being in there. I'm not putting Training Day in there. I'm not putting it in there just for the fucking sake that I already said it's shit and you shouldn't put it in there. I like the movie, but it can't be in there. So we can go The Other Guys. 2, Colors. I like that a lot. And then the number 1's going to shock some folks because it may not necessarily be a cop-related movie, but there's cop scenes in it. And it's Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's a motor officer that is continually coming across the hijinks of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And if you see my cup, you see I love Christmas a lot. And so that's going to take the top spot.
Isn't that movie where he's trying to get the toy for his kid?
It's a Turbo Man. It's an action figure, too.
It's not a cop movie.
Yep.
I would say Men in Black would be a cop movie.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
We had an argument over that earlier. Steve said they're not cops. I said, they're kind of world police. Or Galaxy Police. I think they arrested the pug dog and had him as an informant. So it's police work. They're doing police work.
Yeah, so we'll segue from the dumbest fucking thing he could have said into some of the dumbest criminals. We've got a segment here on the dumbest criminals. We pull up a couple YouTube videos. We'll play those, let y'all see it, talk your way through it. We know we got a lot of dumb crooks out there. They go out there doing the dumbest shit. So the first one here is a criminal goes into a business with the intent to steal, and as you're going to see, he steals the tip jar.
Oh, that's classic. It happens a lot. Realistic.
Stolen a tip jar off of his counter. He said that a subject had come in, asked for an application, and that was his reason for being there. While he was filling out the application, the owner was walking around doing the work in the store, and when he went in the back,
I like the owner here. He's kind of got a Keystone vibe going on.
Yeah, you know this didn't happen at all, how this video is recreating.
No.
people that we always arrest for petty thefts and things like that.
Patrolman Philip Beach, shout out to you.
Yeah, big shout out, Phil.
Went to his house, picked him up, got him in a photo ID lineup. Owner picked him out right away.
Hold
shit,
on
they
a
did
second.
a
Hold on a
photo
second. Hold on.
lineup
Let's roll that back. This is why law enforcement gets a fucking bad name. Your photo lineup includes 3 males that do look the same, and then a 4-foot-tall fucking guy that looks nothing like them.
They probably couldn't find enough people.
Then just go with the 3. So in the end, if you're gonna go fucking rob a store, don't fill out an app. Don't leave your real info. Don't put your real stuff on there, because in the end, they're gonna find you, probably take you to jail. However, under some of the laws being passed across the United States, they may not go to jail. They may say that person just needed that money and leave them be and let them go. All right, we're going to America's Dumbest Criminals, caught on camera.
It was a 24-hour convenience store, and this guy, on a repeated basis, would go in and walk out with a 12-pack of beer. And it happened about 5 times.
I see they got the chief on this one.
And
He's also the property room clerk. He's also the custodian.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see chiefs on that department doing actual police work though.
Charlac Police Department. Charlac Police Department.
police car pulled in to get gas, and the clerk got on the loudspeaker.
Hey, can you come here for a second? I got this man that's stealing this beer. In the bathroom.
He's in the bathroom.
Don't put that thing down.
Too late.
He's in the bathroom.
Yeah. No, not getting away.
I guess it was his revenge to lock the guy in the store.
Yeah. Not getting out.
Twice on me. He did the time I got suspended, it was him. He did it one other time. I took a pay cut for you, dog.
Wow.
You ain't got nothing to say to me.
All right, so couple decent videos. We could use better. You know, if you're out there, you got some real good shit. I know there was one where the criminal was in the air vents and fell through the roof at some point. You know, that's the shit we need, Adela. We need to get like good ones. Who was our researcher for our YouTube videos? Brian Gramis. Brian Gramis does a horrible job. I know you spent the weekend, but we need to do better and get some better videos. But if you have some submittals, shoot them our way. We could always use really good, dumb criminal videos. Some other things that we want to do in the future, if this podcast continues, there's a good chance we'll have only 2 listeners. It'll be me and you, Dan.
Yes. I think my wife's going to listen to make sure I didn't say anything that offends anybody.
Just went to 3 listeners.
Yes.
Just went to 3. However, we're going to listen to it 7,000 times, so we have 21,000 hits on this and make it one of the most popular podcasts in the city of Las Vegas about police work and police unions in my building. Number 1, probably Emmy nominated.
It's a good strategy. Did you get it from the Democrats?
I did. I'm going to mail in other people's votes too, that this was a great job, and it'll all look like my handwriting. But I'll use my left hand.
Or if
so
somebody leaves their
match.
computer unlocked, you can click on our video.
Oh, that's
count.
that's a that for the future. There's a lot of hijinks and shenanigans that go on. We take our job very seriously, but we also, as cops, A-type personalities, know how to enjoy ourselves and have a good time. And I think we got away from that in law enforcement. When I first started in a briefing room, officers were joking with each other, having a good time, talking. After work, they hung out, played basketball, went and had a beer. Now guys just come into work and they just like, hey, I got to wait to get out of here. And then when the bell rings, I'm done. I'm out of here. I don't talk to anybody.
That's because the brass has kind of sucked the fun out of the job. And, that's kind of one of the segments we want to get into. It's good boss, bad brass. So if you got a good boss, we'd like to hear about it. But if you have a bad boss, we'd like to hear about that as well and give them a good shout out.
And be detailed. You can lay it on there. We're not going to name you. And this can be across the country. If you have listened to this in New York and you say, hey, I want you to blast my commander over here, let it rip. We'll get on it.
Let's hear it.
A couple other things we'd like to do. We'd like to really highlight heroism by our law enforcement officers. If you have some submittals of heroism from an officer, saving a life, putting their life on the line, send them to us to the email as well, asolano@lvppa.com, or when we get our podcast at lvppa.com up, we'll vet them, we'll look at them, and then we'll have our winner and probably send them a nice gift certificate or something like that from the PPA.
It's a great idea because I don't think the public hears enough of the hero stories. Our guys are going out there every day. They're saving lives for real, and we'd like to get them some recognition.
And our last segment that we want some submittals on. We know people who don't like the cops are going to listen.
Yes.
We know they're going to send some shit. Steve, you are so fat and ugly. It's ridiculous. Steve, I looked at your Facebook. Your kids are ugly. My oldest daughter, I agree. She is ugly as hell. But, send them. Flood us with those.
Yes.
Send us the bad shit.
We're going to pick the top 5
Yeah.
every time, and we're going to read them off.
And if you want to send us your email, maybe we'll send you something too. Maybe a black and white to your front door, but we'll send you some too. Just kidding. I don't have that kind of power here. But yeah, if you don't like the cops, you want to get creative, and don't make it weak. If you just put
some good shit.
Yeah, you send, hey, Steve, F you, really, come on, let's get creative. Really get some creative shit, and we'll put it on there for the next one.
I think we've already had one. I think we sent out that email yesterday. A lot of people were hyped up about it, and they wanted to prevent it from happening, and they went out and I think they messed up the parking lot, put a bunch of Cheetos out there to bring in a flock of pigeons.
Yeah, that's not going to scare us off. This guy eats pigeon. How do you prepare a pigeon?
You're going to want to get a good brine for the pigeons because everybody wants to say it's gross, but it's common in Europe. And I was out in my backyard one day drinking beer, and there was pigeons shitting all over the pool. And I'm like, dude, I want to take care of this pigeon problem, but I didn't want to let the meat go to waste. So after a few beers, I Googled it, and you can eat pigeons. All that stuff they eat out there, it's digested and it's safe. So, there's a good beer can pigeon recipe. But the big thing is you want to put it in a nice brine of, salt and sugar and let it sit for a few hours first. But it's good. Some buffalo sauce.
For those that don't know, Dan was a chef before he came here. He referenced Europe. Women also have hairy armpits out there. So we don't know if we have to take everything from there. If you were out there putting Cheetos in our lot, you didn't stop us.
Yeah.
We persevered. We pushed through.
Made the best of the situation.
Yeah. This podcast had to happen. We had another supervisor in our department kind of reaching out saying, hey, is this going to be a bash to the department? Listen, I want to make very clear, I love my police department. I've loved it for 22 years. I'm going to love it for another 10 maybe. Who the hell knows? But when people do things wrong, they have to be held accountable, just like us cops.
They do, and they never want to hear, about it. It's, hey, we're going to make this decision. And I think if it's a bad decision, you need to hear about it. Same thing with our cops. If they make a bad decision, they're held accountable. And I think we're going to segment a part of our show into let's hold them accountable with that. Good boss, bad brass.
And I'd love to have anyone from our supervision want to come on here and talk as well. We can also Skype with folks. Listen, there's a lot of celebrities. I don't know if we're going to get to that status. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Maybe Joe Rogan will want to come on the show. Maybe Chris Pratt, who is pro-law enforcement. Marquise Pouncey from the Steelers, who said, I have an unwavering support for law enforcement. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to be on our little Podunk podcast with Dan and Steve, reach out to us. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from some folks that, we heard a lot from people like LeBron James talking about how the cops are bad.
I'm from Cleveland, and man, what a disappointment.
We hear that, and they get the media attention. So we want to bring on some people to talk about that, support us. Clinton Dix wanted to put a fallen officer's names on his shoes a couple seasons ago. They wouldn't allow him. There's people out there that are in sports that people idolize, that look up to, that do support law enforcement. We need to hear from them. Mookie Betts, great stance on the officers that were ambushed back a few months ago. You were the only person to come out and say, hey, this isn't right either. We can't treat – police are still civilians. They're still people that live in our community. They're mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters. And for you to come out and say, hey, this is bullshit. We've talked about the other crap. Why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we doing something? The chief of police for those officers that were ambushed challenged LeBron James. Hey, put up some money. Millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
Put up some money for a reward. Put up didn't hear nothing.
Nothing.
So if you're a celebrity and you've heard this podcast and you want to be on here via Skype or in person, we can socially distance. We can wear masks. But we'd love to hear from some folks. So listen.
Maybe the governor. We can have him on. Speaking of social distance and masks. I know you wouldn't want him on, Steve, but I think we have some good questions for him. He needs to be held accountable. I mean, he's the worst thing that happened to Vegas since the housing market, burst.
We talked about that gym I have downstairs, and I'm pretty sure I can take him. So,
yes.
No, I don't think it's best he steps in our building. Not a fan anymore. Yeah. So, we'll if you want to have the governor on.
I will host him.
Okay. Dan will host him, and I will just hide under the counter or have a drink and just go about my merry way. But I think for our first podcast, I think we did all right.
I think it was all right as well.
You know what?
I think your movie, picks, not really.
Happens. It's okay. You're let down. My wife's let down. Shit happens. You move on. But some final thoughts from me. A 22-year law enforcement guy, and I started right out of high school as a civilian, as a cadet, working out in the streets, and then became a police officer. Eventually ended up getting to a position where we get to defend our officers. We don't defend them all. They're not all worth defending, but the ones that are, we love stepping up and standing up for them, for the folks that don't tarnish our badge. But for the people that listen to this, whether it's in New York, whether it's in Chicago, whether it's in Florida, there is a large contingency of people that support us. There is a large contingency of people that will buy you lunch when you're out there in uniform. There's a large contingency of people that would actually step in if you're getting in a fight with a guy that's winning and help you. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope about what we do, why you do it. We didn't take these jobs for the pay. Some of us get paid very well. Some of us do not get paid very well. But you did it because you want to help people. And to our point earlier about cops don't see color, cops don't see gender. They see people that need help. And when they need help, they want to go help them. And they do it with their heart in the right place and their mind in the right place. And just know that if you think that things are bad where you're at, there's good people out there. We just need them to start speaking up. So from Dan, myself, the entire Police Protective Association here in Vegas, Adela, our crew, thank you guys. If you listened, if you liked it, please let us know. And hopefully we'll do this again.